Oh wow, he's really gone and done it this time, hasn't he? Rishi Sunak has announced a general election, like a particularly reckless turkey, cheerfully opening a Christmas banquet with some particularly hungry customers who are extremely partial to turkey.
In delivering that stability, showing that when we work together, anything is possible. Our economy is now growing faster than anyone predicted, outpacing Germany, France and the United States. And this morning it was confirmed that inflation is back to normal.
That is mortifying. It's like watching someone else's anxiety dream. I mean, if that was the anxiety dream of someone we had respect for, this would be painful. But given it's the Prime Minister of the most disastrous government in British democratic history, it's actually quite funny. Now, you might be wondering, what is this guy thinking? Look at him, getting absolutely drenched on national television, trying his best not to slip into his default speaking mode, which is children's TV presenter on the verge of losing his temper. Do you know what his personal rating currently is? -51. Absolutely incredible. That means, to put it in perspective, his popularity is somewhere between salmonella and the bubonic plague. Now, the first poll out suggests that Labour is on 48% and the Conservatives on 27%. Goodness me, is he high? If you're wondering what he's actually thinking, let's listen to this bit of useful coverage from Sky News.
We think that a lot of confident votes of confidence letters have been going in, that there hasn't been a single flight yet to Rwanda. This is a former minister saying to me, I said, do you think that they're calling it because he was worried about a confidence vote? This person saying yes. None of this seems as though he's in control. Suspect letters peaked, hence the chaotic nature of today, doing this on a wet Wednesday afternoon. That's just one thought from a couple of sources have put that to me. So
like Beth was saying, it is slightly. We've got the weather, we've got the music. You can probably hear it. You know, there is an awful lot of music that is being projected. Always a risk in Downing Street, of course. But launching your election campaign to the sound of "things can only get better," one Lib Dem source, cracking the joke that it should be "things could only get wetter." I mean, it's not the greatest optics.
So he's jumped because his colleagues were trying to get rid of him. I'll be honest, if I was Rishi Sunak, which however low things might ever get for me, thank goodness I'm not, I'd have just stared political reality in the face, understood I'm about to face a landslide defeat, resigned, let someone else take over, and just go off enjoying being very, very rich. He's about, I think, twice as rich as the king. Now, it would be quite embarrassing, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite as embarrassing as getting completely obliterated in a general election, which is what is going to happen. Now, the Tories are toast, if by toast we're using a euphemism for being completely and utterly incinerated. The reason they're going to be annihilated is because they're the worst government in British democratic history. Some of you might be thinking, oh, hold on now a minute, don't like this lot, but come on. I'll justify that claim, bear with me. Working people in this country have now endured the worst squeeze in living standards since the Battle of Waterloo. That means people are poorer on average than when the Tories came to power 14 years ago. Public services are disintegrating, in some cases literally. The NHS is on its knees. We don't really have a functioning health system. Poverty is surging while the rich boom like never before. There's an ever-growing housing nightmare. The welfare state has been decimated. Young people have been particularly battered, including students punished for a desire to learn, from which we all benefit, with crippling debts. This group partied, let's not forget, of course, during the worst public health emergency in a century, while citizens couldn't hold the hands of dying relatives, while Liz Truss crashed the economy with deranged policies designed to hand the rich even more of the wealth they have already too much of. Now, we've had never-ending scandals, including outright corruption, with wealthy Tory donors making an absolute killing from lucrative contracts. I could really go on. This is the problem. It's a long list. With that calamitous record, all the Tories have got left is whipping up fear against the vulnerable, like migrants, like refugees, hoping we'll blame their scapegoats for the worst government in the history of British democracy. And let's not forget how this utter shout of disgraces has stood by the Israeli state, including with weapons, as it has perpetrated some of the worst atrocities of our age. Why is this then? Let's go back to what I said, the worst government in democratic history. We might expect someone like me to think the Tories suck. Yeah, fair enough, I do. But what I mean is, even on their own terms, they failed catastrophically. I would say Thatcherism was a calamity, but the cheerleaders of Margaret Thatcher would say, on their terms, it was a great success. They did what they wanted. They privatised, our services, our utilities, they slashed taxes on the rich, they smashed trade unions, they flogged off council housing. We could go on. Disastrous, I would say, for our society. We still suffer the terrible consequences, but they would say that's a huge success. They remade society in their own image. What achievement can this lot point to, really? Brexit? Well, the polling shows most people think that's a disaster, including the people who voted for it. They have nothing. The other problem they have is they've gone through every different possible flavour of Toryism. My word, have we tasted them all. And all of them have made Britain sick. So their cupboard is empty. They can't go, well, we just need to change our Tory approach. We'll go for another one. They've done all of them, and they've all failed. So this is why the polling is clear. The Tories will not only lose, they're going to get absolutely smashed into tiny pieces. I think is pretty obvious. There's no precedent for government to be this far behind in the poll at the start of an election campaign and go on to come even remotely close to winning. This particular nightmare, and it has been a nightmare, is over. Whoop whoop. Okay, tiny hiccup. Labour under Keir Starmer have made it clear they're going to keep the disastrous policies which brought Britain to national ruin. Now, the point here is, do you care simply about who's in charge in terms of the faces, or do you care about what they actually do? This lot, Keir Starmer's Labour, have ruled out taxing the booming rich. They've got the same fiscal rule as the Tories, which means in plain English, they've ruled out the investment our collapsing public services need. Honest politicians would be straight with the public about the NHS alone, the National Health Service. Without massive public investment, not least given an ageing society, it's not going to be able to meet our needs. Keir Starmer's Labour will leave our utilities, like our literally shit-infested water supply, in the hands of private profiteers. Students will still be battered with huge debts. They've promised more privatisation of our National Health Service. There'll be no council housing, nowhere near the scale we need, but nationally they've committed to none. No extra council housing. They trashed their one big pledge to deal with the climate emergency and get growth, the £28 billion a year climate fund. They promised to keep the Tory clampdown on civil liberties. And Keir Starmer backed Israel's right to commit war crimes. And Labour have backed Israel's murderous onslaught against Gaza and tried to purge and silence those who stood against it. Is that really what you want? Really? Well, we deserve better. Coincidentally the name of the campaign launched earlier this year to raise money for green and independent candidates standing for taxing the rich, investing in our services, scrapping tuition fees, public ownership, solving our housing emergency, taking on the climate emergency, and opposing Israeli war crimes and genocide. We need to back that, all of us. So I've included the link for We Deserve Better. Click on the link, and if you can donate anything, donate so we can actually get campaigns running properly for Green Party and independent candidates. Now, Labour are going to scare you. They're going to go, woo, they're going to spook you. That's what their strategy will be, to vote for them in case the Tories win. The Tories aren't going to win. There's more chance of Rishi Sunak turning into a purple kangaroo named Steve, opening up a wormhole and taking us all to the mystical land of Whipple in the Andromeda Galaxy. Okay, it's even less likely than that, and that actually sounds quite fun. Now, all the way through this campaign, Labour are going to try and spook you into thinking the Tories are going to sneak in, you can't risk voting for us. They know it's bollocks. They know the Tories are toast. They just want the whopping big majority they crave just so they can get away with anything, and they can't get any pressure from you to fix the problems that this country has. Now, we know how authoritarian this lot are. They are power mad. They've waged a war on anyone who's seen as not towing the line, not least people who speak out against Israel's genocide. They went round saying to journalists they blackmailed the Speaker of the House of Commons into crushing a motion by the Scottish National Party to hold Israel to account for collective punishment, saying that unless he did that, then he'd lose his job when Labour come to power. They've also demanded crackdowns on civil liberties worse than the Tories. You can't trust them with the amount of power that they're going to get as things stand. All the pressure in British politics at the moment is coming from those who say, let's attack migrants more, let's cut taxes on the rich more, let's attack protesters more. This is a race to the bottom. We need pressure from a different direction, a direction which demands the rich pay their fair share, that we invest in public services, that we've got strong trade unions, a proper welfare state, we've got public ownership, that we take on the climate emergency, and that we oppose war crimes and genocide. I know, I'm asking here for the moon on a stick. So we can vote Green or Independent without any risk. Unless you've got a Labour candidate who stands for the sorts of things I mentioned, I would still vote for them. Now, firstly, as I've said, Let's donate to We Deserve Better. I'll include a link in the bio. I'll be doing it as soon as I finish babbling. So they can give money to Green and independent candidates so they've got a better chance. Election rules limiting money in terms of what can be given to candidates kicks in soon. So do it as soon as you can, if you can afford it. Now, more generally, I'm going to do my best throughout this election campaign to offer you the best independent-minded coverage I can. That's what my promise is. That's our pact. That's our contract. I'll sign it. Well, I probably won't, but you get the gist. Unlike media organisations which pretend not to be biased but clearly are, I'm open and honest about where I stand. You know where I'm coming from. And I will use the principles I have to judge what politicians do and say. That means, as you know, I believe the Tories have wrecked this country. By any objective measure, they've inflicted a huge amount of damage, and I think we need to be rid of them. But I don't think Labour offer an alternative, and that means we'll be trapped with the same inequality, poverty and insecurity, and crucially, that means the same turmoil we've had for the last few years. And I think if we don't tackle that, then the far right are going to get their act together, which is why others need to get that act together instead. I don't agree with everything the Greens stand for, or independent candidates who I'm going to end up backing. That's fine. I'm independent-minded. I'm being pragmatic. But I'll hold all of the frontline politicians to account and speak the truth throughout the campaign. Much of the media coverage you'll get instead will just be blindly cheerleading for the Tories or Labour. You're not getting that from me. They'll hide, including, of course, on the Labour cheerleading pom-pom side, things which are embarrassing or which don't accord with the kind of tribal, rah, 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 let's make Starmer Prime Minister. I'll just tell you the truth. It'll upset them, but that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to lie to you or be dishonest. The Tories are toast, but politics isn't a football game. Well, it shouldn't be. It's not about blindly cheering on a side no matter what. It should be about ridding society of injustice and insecurity. We can do all that. It's a wealthy society, and it brims with potential. It's a political choice to condemn Britain to stagnating living standards, disintegrating public services, a housing crisis, indebted young people, climate emergency, and indeed a political choice to support war crimes. Don't forget that. And I won't forget that all the way through this election campaign in all of the coverage that I do. Please like and subscribe. Do leave your comments. Do help us keep the train on the road on patreon.com/owenjones84. I'll be doing documentaries around the country. We'll be doing videos on the campaign trail. So that's my promise to you. Press like and subscribe. Listen to us on the podcast. I'll speak to you soon.